All right, so let's.
Got it.
All right, so welcome to the December session of the district development, and really happy that everyone could make the time to join us here tonight. This program focus is going to be part 1, and there might be part 2 and or part 3 in the months to come. We're focusing on the committees that exist throughout Rotary District 7390 and want to share the purpose of the committees, share the activities that the committees are doing, and hopefully get people to join and participate in the committees, maybe in a way that they're not already participating. So to start us off tonight, we have Peg Sennett, who will talk about the Disaster Relief Committee and share a little bit about the history and current initiatives of the Disaster Relief Committee and walk us through how any Rotarian within our district can support the committee and become involved in that committee. Peg, thanks so much for joining us this evening.
You're quite welcome. My pleasure. I wrote out my notes about what I was going to say tonight last week. And it is certainly different from where we see ourselves today with the tornadoes that have happened across our country. But before I get into that, let's back up a little bit, and I'll tell you what my history and what the district's history is in regards to disaster response. So for me, my endeavor in disaster response started back with Katrina in 2005, when I volunteered with the Red Cross and went to Louisiana and for training, and then also serving there on the ground. So came back from there and then went to Biloxi, Mississippi with my church. And what I saw was a lot of confusion. And so for the United States, Katrina was the biggest event that had happened from a natural disaster standpoint. And I'm not being critical about anybody, believe me, but because I could sit there in the capacity of doing casework, I could see some things occurring that just seemed like, oh my gosh, there's got to be a better way. Like your house could have been destroyed and you signed up with Encore or Mennonite Disaster Response. And they said, yes, we'll help you rebuild your house. You qualify. They send a team in this week, and then all of a sudden it's 6 more weeks before somebody else comes to your house. That team that came in, maybe they're all electricians, and what they're told to do is to muck out and lay flooring. You know, it was just a very disjointed thing. And I thought to myself, this has got to be a better way. Why can't we say that we will adopt a family? We'll take the house and we'll provide the volunteers and the money in order to get your house done. So through the years, each organization that we worked with, whether it was Encore or LDR, or primarily I've worked with Fuller Center, to say to them, I can provide you with the teams and the manpower. You're providing the casework, qualifying the family. You're providing the volunteer housing. We'll bring in the dollars and we will get that house rebuilt in a hopefully consecutive way, like week after week after week, instead of waiting for another team to develop. So right away, we started joining hands in disaster response and got a lot of volunteers saying that they wanted to go to the Katrina area and help. And there were a lot of Rotarians from our district that signed up for that too. So we were marching along, and then to the best of my knowledge, District 7390 did not have a disaster response committee prior to that time. There really wasn't any reason, I guess, to do so. And so since joining hands was already going strong, then District 7390 leadership came to me and said, can't we just roll this in together? Can't we use joining hands and the endeavors that you're doing and the Rotarians that you're working with to be the district's disaster response endeavor? So that's how it got started. That's not saying that restoring homes that are destroyed by a hurricane or a flood, or even building new construction, because we did 3 new constructions, building from ground up for a whole house. We did 3 of those. Not saying that is the only way to approach disaster response. But it worked very well for us, and we got a lot of support and a lot of Rotarians participating. So it ended up being Rotarians in District 7390, some Rotarians from other districts, churches, and individuals who volunteered to help. And over those 15 years, we raised almost $500,000 and had 555, I think it was, volunteers over that course of time. And most of those volunteers volunteered for more than 1 week, more than 1 year. So I had people that would go for 2-3 weeks at a time. Next year, they would sign up and do it again. I had people who were team leaders and crew chiefs, some of them Rotarians, in order to hold it all together and make sure people were doing the kind of work that they were qualified to do and not being assigned to something that they couldn't handle. So that worked very well. And it's important too to know that over that course of time for our district 7390, $230,000 was raised. So that was a combination of individual donations and club grants. And the biggest endeavor that we had was in 2013 for Hurricane Sandy in New Jersey. And so for that, there truly was a total of $175,000 that was raised. And we did 3 houses during that course of time, but also Rick Copeland, who is a Rotarian from one of our other clubs, took it upon himself to raise and collect donations. And there were tons of items that went to raise money for books and to raise, I think he individually raised like $2,000 during that course of time to go towards Sandy. So we were going along, and Julianne and I talked about this quite a bit just a couple of hours ago. I could see as time went by that there was less and less enthusiasm. Some of the volunteers that we had back in 2005 obviously had gotten older, so they weren't volunteering anymore. Not that their heart still wasn't in it, but physically they felt like they couldn't do that. So the numbers were skewing down. And the last 2 projects that we did were in North Carolina. And for each one of those in 19 and 20, we had like 1 week of volunteers. But in conjunction with that, we also had John Bailey, one of our Rotarians that owns Bailey Transport. He would donate the bus and the driver. And so we had, I'm sorry, my cat's getting in the Christmas scene here. And so we had transportation provided by John. And I think going forward in the future, he may be interested in doing something like that again. When the hurricane hit Puerto Rico, there were a lot of Rotarians in our district that were interested in helping that out. So we raised, I think that was $230,000. I'm sorry, that's a bit exaggerated. $30,386 specifically for Puerto Rico, and that's where people wanted it to go. We spent, my gosh, I want to tell you, it was over a year before we found a viable resource in order to give that money to. But it ended up being a community libraries that were shut down and destroyed because of the hurricane, and they got refurbished and back up on their feet again. So I think that if it had not been for COVID, we would have kept going and had at least 1 project a year with both Rotarians and other folks. And we would have continued to have financial support from Rotary clubs. Then COVID came along, so that put a stop to everything. So now I'm sitting here a year and a half after COVID, and I had made the decision that probably my days of climbing ladders and slinging paintbrushes should come to an end. So I was ready to say tonight that I'm ready to pass the torch. So I would stay on as chair till the end of this Rotary year, not anticipating that anything was going to happen, because by June 30th, it's pre-hurricane season. And hopefully we could drum up a new chair between now and then. However, then this weekend came along, and now we have a major disaster. And I think this is a great opportunity I surmise that people will be regenerated about volunteering to do some work. We'll have that whole new, if you go back to 2005, and now it's like 18 years later. So there's a whole new group of people that tend to be in their 40, 50, early 60s age group that would be very interested in doing volunteer work along this line. So that's what I'm hoping to get accomplished. I told Julia today that I would take and write an article for the newsletter, or however she decides that she would like to distribute that, in order to see if we can get some volunteers, somebody to chair the committee, even some qualified people who may want to be crew chiefs on a project, and that I would stay on to give advice and leadership support for whoever would like to take over as chair of this committee and move forward, because there is a lot of, bye to whoever Lane's waving to, there is a lot of information that you gain through the years about how disaster response work functions. And like both Una asked and Juliet asked, it's like, well, is there anything we can do today? Well, you can donate. I suspect that maybe Rotary International may come up with a fund like they have recently in recent years for some of these major events. I got a email today, Lutheran Disaster Response is already collecting funds, but as far as hands-on work goes, that's going to take a while. And if we talk about restoring homes, first of all, keep in mind too, that the homes that get qualified for free work, like what we do, and supplies and materials at no charge, are people who meet a financial criteria for that. So these are people without insurance and no other means to repair their homes. And all that takes time. So typically it will be at least summer before any of that really falls into place. But we can certainly get our ducks in place, even know what organization that we might work with. When an organization goes in, like Lutheran Disaster Response or Fuller Center, they go into an area knowing that there is at least 2 years worth of work. Because when they go into an area, they have to hire caseworkers, they have to find housing for the volunteers, they have to find cooks, they have to set up bunks, they have to do all this kind of stuff. So they don't do this just for a couple of houses. They do it for a community that's been destroyed. So, but all that takes time. And so it takes time even for people to find out that they're not eligible even for a SBA loan. I mean, the people that we help have no resources. So all that takes some time. So I think I hit everything that I thought was relevant and that I wanted to go over. Do you want me to say, are there any questions at this point, or you want to move on, Una, or how you want to handle it?
Yeah, I think let's take questions if you don't mind. And I wanted to start with one. I remember a couple years ago, there was a person from the Rotary Club of Carlisle who was actually collecting the disaster relief money and then matching it.
Yes.
And I remember that money specifically went to, I think Carlisle had a foundation, and so people could easily make donations that way. What is the mechanism for people to make donations now when I don't see that our district has anything on the website where people can make donations? Is there a mechanism now?
Yes, and I can address that when I write an article. That particular situation was for Puerto Rico. That's how we got that $30,000. And now my club Hanover has a foundation, has a trust, so we can use that as the vehicle to collect money. So yes, so yeah, it's like striking while the iron's hot. I mean, we'd be making a commitment that the money would be dispersed appropriately, as we did with Puerto Rico. And like I said, that took well over a year to find. We had lots of leads, but none of them ever materialized, and no one would provide us with the information that we needed. Primarily, that was because they were just so wiped out infrastructure-wise that they couldn't even function. but it's a trust factor to some extent to go ahead and donate your money and put it in that account and then know that it will be spent. And what we can say is that it would be spent on, if we can get the teams together to go restore houses, it would be used for that purpose.
Yeah, I like the idea of having an article put in, and I almost think that this deserves some kind of a challenge to each club where we might say, could each club produce 1 or 2 members who would go on a service project like this, and then if they have those 2 people who are interested, maybe there's some committee members that result out of that way. But I feel like putting a challenge out there might be a way to get each club to think about, especially younger members and new members, they're eager to go do something, and it might be a way that those people bubble up to the top.
And Juliet's going to talk about Mechanicsburg North has been really strong in supporting Joining Hands. And there was somebody that's gone on 4 different missions over the years that Juliet's going to talk to, because she knows they have continued to do local response work.
Nice. And Juliet, what was the link that you put in the chat? Was that a Rotary International link or was that our district?
Yeah, so that's Rotary International. So they have a special disaster response fund. And I was looking to see if, there's certainly donate now buttons, but it doesn't look like you can donate to specific disasters that I can tell.
Correct.
Now, certainly Shelter Box, I bet, will be huge.
Yeah.
With this tornado relief. And that's always a great place to donate your money to. I'm sure they're going to be doing a lot of work in this area.
But if we could get that link for the Rotary Club of Hanover for that foundation, especially if people can make those donations online, that would be a nice thing to promote in our newsletter and on our social media as well.
I did a quick Google search just on Rotary tornado disaster relief. And there are some Rotary district sites that are popping up in the areas that were devastated that are accepting donations toward tornado recovery. So I just haven't looked extensively yet at what the opportunities are.
And then the questions for them is, what do they intend to do with those donations? And does that fit our goal? What kind of action that we would like to take as a district?
Well, Peg, truly from the bottom of our hearts collectively, thank you for your work in this area and your efforts for so many years now. I know you have really changed lives and saved lives through Rotary and through your other efforts too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thanks for the overview tonight. Are there any more questions for Peg? And we'll move on to Hector's update.
Not a question, but a comment. We do have a disaster. I came in late, I apologize. We do have a disaster relief page on the 7390 website, which we could use as the conduit to wherever we're going to be having people donate money, as well as an update to where we are with that, right? Because it doesn't look like it's been updated for a little while.
Right.
Well, I know I'm on that page, and it doesn't, I don't think our district has any active links to make donations online. Which I think if what you're saying is to put the Rotary Club of Hanover link on this page, absolutely, that would be a great place for it. Thanks, John. Any other questions or comments for Peg? Well, our second update today is going to be from Hector Ortiz. And while Fred Gellert is our contact for the Rotary Leadership Institute, Hector has been involved at the Rotary Leadership Institute Northeast America level. And so I asked him if he could give some history and background of RLI and kind of give us commercial for the Rotary Leadership Institute, so to speak. And Fred, if you are in range of hearing this, please contribute your thoughts as well. But I'll turn it over to Hector now. Thank you.
Thank you. Past District Governor Una and fellow Rotarians, thank you so much for this opportunity to be together today and talk a little bit about Rotary Leadership Institute. We in Rotary in 7390 know as the University of Rotary. That's how I became involved more than 10 years, probably 11 years with the Rotary Leadership Institute. I has been a faculty member for probably this 9 to 10 years. And in the last couple of years, I have not been able to facilitate because of the different roles that I've been playing, but always a fan of the Rotary Leadership Institute. Fred Geller is our current site chair. As you know, the site chair is in each district. We identify site chairs in each district, and a couple district create an area that is in charge of assistant vice president of RLI. And then the different areas become the different zones or regions in RLI. And we are part with all these regions of the Northeast region. And there is many others in the United States, and there is many others in the whole world. Actually, there is almost 400 districts that have RLI as a program currently, more than 400. And this started just as an initiative from a club. And then the club become the district, and the district become the zone, and then now is in the nationally recognized Rotary Leadership Institute. As probably you know, Rotary Leadership Institute is no part of Rotary, works with Rotary, but it's a separate organization working with Rotary on training, on how to develop better leaders and recognize the opportunity to know a little more about this institution called Rotary International. The Rotary Leadership Institute is really an opportunity to meet other Rotarians. That's the first thing that we do. Now we do virtually, but also in person. And at this current time, I just have in October in Scranton, the Rotary Leadership Institute after 2 years in person. And we had the opportunity to come together and to meet other Rotarians, fellowship, opportunities to network, opportunities to connect. That's one of the elements of the many elements I will say, when you had the opportunity to share experiences, to learn new skills, to take your club leadership and really start creating change. You don't have to be in the leadership change to be a member of Rotary Leadership Institute. You don't have to be a leader of your club in order to attend. This is the beauty of this program, that this is able to help and to support any Rotarian in the world. With this current virtual opportunity, we can have people from any part of the world coming to our meetings and participate. You don't have to be in the leadership. You don't have to be in the chain of leadership. You can just come and benefit. We had in RLI people who come from just 2 months being in Rotary, and people who has been for 20 or 40 years in Rotary. It's for everyone, and we have opportunities for all Rotarians. The other important thing that we have to recognize is that you can start really changing the world, and I have that as a testimony coming to RLI and recognizing how people can collaborate with other clubs. Is how I started my first project with Ecuador in 2009 when I was president-elect and attending a leadership institute, when I just shared the opportunity with others and had the opportunity to create collaboration. And collaboration means donations, contributions, people, resources to be able to finalize an idea that came as an idea but become a reality after that. We have opportunity to have RLI in our own district every year. We have at least one opportunity to do inside in District 7390, but you can attend any Rotary Leadership Institute in the world, particularly in the United States. And since 2 years ago, everything was in person, that was an opportunity to go to different cities and participate as an RLI. The 3 levels that we have in Rotary Leadership Institute. First level for beginners, we had intermediate for second level, and the 3rd level after one you graduate from RLI. As a graduate, you can attend a faculty training, and you can become later on a training of the Rotary Leadership Institute. What is RLI in general? It's a leadership and development program. That's what it is, leadership and development program to strengthen Rotary clubs. That's the first part of the mission. How we do that, or how RLI do that? To education, collaboration, exchange of ideas among those leaders and future leaders. All three curriculums are facilitated for a faculty facilitator. Basically, this is not an opportunity to lecture. This is really an opportunity to share. In adult education, this is very important because you are not there that somebody can teach you for 5 or 6 or 7 hours. You are there to get some knowledge, to practice that knowledge, and to collaborate in how that knowledge can become a reality, can be an action, can become a practical action for every Rotarian. We also do in this environment that we have now, because we talk about different elements. It's not just attracting Rotarians, it's not just retaining Rotarians, engaging Rotarians. Of course, this is one of the elements, but we also talk about membership, ethics, service projects, the Rotary Foundation, communication, that can help basically any professional. You don't have to be just in Rotary to apply this knowledge, can really allow us as a person or as an individual to become a beneficiary of those knowledgeable opportunities that we may have just attending an RLI institute. Again, as I mentioned, we have the parts 1, 2, and 3, and the graduate program. The graduate program, the beauty of this is for everyone who has finished the 3 levels and can every year change the topic and learn something new. For instance, this just year, during this 2021-2022, the topic is the 7 areas of focus. How you can know a little more and how you can participate, how you can engage in become one of those persons leading a district project, a global grant, and had the opportunity to collaborate with others in the 7 areas of focus. And those who have attended this year are really glad to be able to participate and to really know a little more how to engage in Rotary, how to connect in Rotary. The other thing that I have to say is that now that we have this virtual environment, we have had opportunities to participate in RLI in both. Again, as I mentioned, not too many in person yet, but at least during this year, I think 4 or 5 RLI institutes in our region are going to be in person. The most of the others are going to be virtual. I think in the future, maybe an opportunity to plan for a hybrid model of RLI, which is again going to take time and commitment in order to learn how to do that effectively. Una, by the way, is very good for leadership Harrisburg in start promoting that opportunity to have hybrid opportunities in creating training and development. Probably that's one of the areas that RLI has to change quickly and to adapt to the new circumstances. I am not saying to replace. What I am saying is to adapt to the new circumstances and be able to offer what customers, Rotarians in this case, are eager to get, are looking for those opportunities. And I think we as a Rotary Leadership Institute can start deeply thinking about that. One of the caveats that we have in RLI is that they meet on every 3 years. And in that way, we have to wait for 3 years for the next update. With the technology that we have now and the changes that are happening, maybe has to be addressed and doing a quicker way. But other than that, again, many ways that RLI is doing now is that the facilitators themselves and the leaders of the Northeast in this case are adapting. All these changes that we don't have to wait for the 3 years. Actually, this year is coming the next meeting, and they has been able to adapt at least slowly and progressively in order to fit the demands that Rotarians have in this current moment. So in general, RLI Institute is there, is paid basically for each Rotarian. We usually, or RLI usually charge the cost of organizing a particular event that usually includes food in the morning at lunch and all the materials that are needed in order to fulfill the requirements of a training. Again, the facilitators are selected. We evaluate all the facilitators, and based on the ratings of the attendees, we invite more facilitators to come and to be able to facilitate other sessions. I think in general, this is one of the treasures that RLI can offer, and Rotary has, because again, as a Rotarian, you can participate and be able to develop your own skills in this particular field. In the last couple of years, when Rotary actors were admitted to Rotary as a part of Rotary, not just joining Rotary, we had been able to invite Rotary actors as well. I have seen in many of the institutes, Rotary actors, younger professionals, younger potential Rotarians and Rotary actors who had attended the RLI Institute in a discount rate, allowing those persons who want to enhance their abilities to be part of the RLI Institute as well. I think that's it. Again, when you finish, you can qualify to become a potential faculty. You need some recommendations, some letters, some applications to attend a training to become a faculty, and then there is a process, but this is an opportunity open for everyone who would like to pursue it if they have the skills, the ability, and more important, the willingness to become an RLI faculty. I think that covers in general, Una, what we have. The district has been participating in this RLI for many years. We had not missed 1 year, and we usually have the attendance goes from 100 to 50 to 100, and this in any RLI institute in the last 10 years at least.
Yeah,
Una?
they are so valuable. And thank you for the overview, Hector. I would just like to ask of those on the call, how many of you have finished RLI Part 1? How many of you have finished RLI Part 2? How many of you have finished RLI Part 3? How many of you have finished a graduate course? How many of you have considered the faculty training for RLI? Oh, the hands went down, John and Juliet. Those hands went down. It is a great way to stay involved and to give back through Rotary. But for those of you who didn't raise your hand for Part 1, 2, or 3, I would highly encourage you to check out the attendance. Also, encourage people from your clubs to attend. It used to be that there was almost a waiting list in some clubs to, some clubs would sponsor people to attend the Rotary Leadership Institute because there is a price tag that goes along with it when you're meeting in person. But I can't think of another way that that better develops the future leaders of our clubs. And we are having a leadership shortage. If you haven't looked around, clubs are having a leadership shortage, districts are having a leadership shortage. And so sending people to the Rotary Leadership Institute puts the idea in their mind that they can be a future leader, not only in their club, but in the district. So start talking about it now. And Juliet and Fred, if you look on the district website under the RLI section, there's nothing there. It gives you an error message, and it says, sorry, this event is over. So I think that is referring to the last Rotary Leadership Institute, but there's no reason that we couldn't have a page that exists all the time with information about Rotary Leadership Institute and a link to RLI NEA for people to go to that site to learn more all year round.
You know what? It's actually there under district programs. There's an RLI flyer.
That's where I am. And I'm getting.
I clicked on RLI flyer and it comes right up for me.
The flyer. So if you go to that same spot and just click on Rotary Leadership Institute as a page.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
There's no page. So,
but if you click on the next box over that says flyer, you will bring something up. So we'll have to look at that.
Yeah, it seems like an easy fix. The page is there. It just seems like putting some content on that page would would be easier for people to understand, and then click from there to RLI NEA where they can get the dates and the schedule.
I have a question,
Go ahead, Jim.
kind of about that. When I'm on the RLI NEA site and I'm looking up the next 3 dates, the one in Mass, the one in New Jersey, and then the one in New Hampshire. When I click on the more info, it doesn't tell me which part that course is. It just says part 1, 2, 3, and graduate.
So usually for each of those seminars, they would try to offer all 3 parts plus graduate. And so if they have less than 6 or 7 people, then they might not offer every single part. But the idea is that any of those sessions that you look at, you should feel confident that you could get part 1, 2, or 3 at those sites.
Okay, cool.
Fred, do you have
Hector,
anything
you said
to
they're all
add?
doing virtual now? These are all virtual now?
I think one is in person, the other ones are virtual. I think we just offer one in New York. The one that we offer is Scranton, and it's at least one more coming at least for February. I don't know if March and April, but we plan to have another one in April that may be in person as well. So for now, at least one more in person, the other ones are virtual.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I hope that RLI will continue to offer just some virtual sessions, because in the past, you would have to wait a year before you could go to the next level. And if they continue to offer virtually, people could go to 1 and 2 and 3 in a shorter time frame and then get graduate and get certified to be faculty quicker. Any other questions? And Fred, do you have anything to add? I'm not sure if you have audio.
Nothing to add. Hector did a nice job covering everything. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Well, I see Scott Stevens has joined us for he's got his holiday background now. Is that the Griswolds? So nice to see you, Scott. Scott Stevens will be talking about Rotary Means Business, and we'll share some background of that particular club of District 7390, committee of 7390, and how we can get involved. And another great program that we offer. It hasn't been unscathed by COVID, but Scott, we're looking forward to hearing a little bit of an update from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see everybody. Sorry, I'm juggling a couple different family plates tonight, so I appreciate you accommodating the schedule. I guess the easiest thing to say is that we feel the worst is behind us, right? So learning curves have flattened, even though infection curves can still be playing around with different things. One thing I loved about Rotary Means Business is that we're always trying new things. And we did some Zoom sessions in 2020. Then everyone got Zoomed out, and we tried to do another in-person meeting, and then different variants came out. And what I think is really cool about RMB is that it's resilient. It might be a little injured, might have a hurt wing right now, but it's definitely resilient. And I think it definitely caters to newer members and folks that are still actively engaged in growing whatever professional line of work that they're in, which is really exciting. I also think that this whole COVID kind of sideways turn has gotten some people to really think hard and fast about what they want this to look like going into kind of a new normal. So RMB historically has been very very active in the kind of quintessential face-to-face networking kind of format where, Rotarians can get together, learn about what each other does, and then try to refer business back and forth to each other, kind of like they did when they started this whole thing. So that spirit is very much alive. I think the biggest question mark is timing and acceptance. One thing I think is going to be imperative is trying to get that timing correct, and also communicating with our clubs. We have a very large and very diverse district, and those members of those Rotary clubs represent a huge swath of professionals. And it's really exciting just to know what you don't know about all those Rotarians you have yet to meet, who have never really been enticed or encouraged or inspired to go to an RMB. So I really think that 2022, we'll start to see some sort of semblance of getting back to normal in a controlled environment, of course. I think as the weather turns around, and hopefully as these statistics kind of go in towards our favor, fingers crossed, that you'll see some more return to normalcy with RMB, and that will be meeting the different parts of our large district, incorporating the support of local Rotary presidents, and also going through our RMB governing board and trying to diversify that as well. So I encourage, and a lot of local presidents have reached out to me, even in this time of a little bit of craziness and all that other stuff. But I encourage you to reach out to me or anybody on that's related to RMB, and ask questions, suggest involvement, suggest sponsoring an RMB, or at least raise your hand for it. I think everyone that's been in RMB for a little while knows that RMB kind of lives and dies by how well it's promoted and how well people are educated about it. Because if I'm a younger Rotarian, my 30s or early 40s, and I'm a professional, and my club might, maybe a good portion of them are retired. I may not know about RMB, but in my line of work, I might be able to be easily connected with Rotarians across the district. And that's the whole spirit of RMB. It's really about, imparting the four-way test in the way you do business, and also seeking to grow the membership of clubs by giving prospective members just yet another reason why it could be beneficial to them, not only professionally but financially, to make it easier to give. Right, that's one thing I've always said about RMB. Rotary in general was created on kind of one of these tenets, and it costs money to be involved. And if it's easier to make money, it's easier to volunteer and your time, and also donate to great causes, which Rotary is not short on at all. So if you have questions, feel free to call me or email me. And we're really looking to putting together a calendar for 2022. Probably be a little slower at the beginning as the winter kind of turns into spring, but hopefully by this time next year, we're talking about the 5 or 6 meetings we had in 2022 and how we're back on track. So that's kind of my update, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Scott, I just put 2 email addresses in the chat. I wasn't sure which one you prefer.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. All right.
Either one works. Yep.
Okay. Both email addresses in there for Scott. And Scott, I'll put you on the spot, but I know you won't mind. Can you give us one example that you can think of your best RMB connection, where a business connection happened at RMB and just took off from there?
I mean, it's happened a bunch of times. I think what I'm most impressed with are there's a handful of people who, before COVID, had the ability and the intent of showing up with fierce regularity and spirit at these RMB functions. I work a lot with folks in the financial industry, so attorneys, accountants, financial advisors, other bankers, and I've been amazed at how easy it's been for me to connect with people that have always been in kind of on my radar, but I've never had an opportunity to work with them. And that's happened a lot. I remember, and John Anthony, I'm sure you remember the date, but I want to say, if you're putting a gun to my head, I think it was February or March of 2019, maybe even 2018, when we had that huge meeting, RMB meeting, 60, 70 people in downtown Mechanicsburg. And it was just, we kept going around, and we had to we had to stop it because it was just, it was getting out of control in a good way. There were like too many connections being made. We had to okay, let's stop and one off this stuff. But yeah, it's been great to, expand professional networks. And you know, what's cool about Rotary is that, you know, we all like to wear our pins, but sometimes we don't. And some people are a little less vocal about, you know, their involvement. But you know, they kind of come out of the woodwork in RMB. Dave Getz is a perfect example of that. He's out there. He comes to a lot of these events. You know, as an attorney, you know, sometimes soft spoken, you would never know how big his involvement is or how committed he is to kind of helping other folks too. And there's a whole mentorship piece involved in this as well, which is often, you know, I wouldn't say a primary mission, but kind of a natural kind of side product of RMB. And that's, you know, kind of grooming other Rotarians in your particular line of work to be even better at what they do. So I don't know if that's too big of an example or too general, but it's definitely a fun one.
Thanks, Sorry, I was on mute for a second there. Thanks so much, Scott. Any questions for Scott or John, anything to add about RMB from your experience?
So I would only add that, you know, RMB is a throwback to 1905. You know, Rotary was started by business people who wanted to do business with like-minded, like-hearted people. And I think it's why I love RMB so much, because it is a membership generator for us. And it allows for good people to do business with good people, knowing that the business that you're doing is going to be good business. For members who aren't in business, to do business with Rotarians is to support Rotary through business. And I love that part of it too. I know of a situation, I don't have permission to talk about the companies, but I will tell you that there was an introduction at an RMB event that occurred that created a business between two people who did not know each other before they met at RMB, and created a business that actually helped to save another business during COVID. And so for me, you save one, it's all worth it, right? But there is lots of business that happens in our meetings. I know Alden likes to talk about, if he were on the kind of the godfather of RMB for us, talks about how much business he has given to members of Rotary because of RMB. So it's a great piece for our district, which I think was the number 4 or 5 district to pick up the RMB concept on a global level. And now there's over 100 districts around the world. This is a jewel of our district. So I'm a little excited about it. Sorry, Una, don't give me the microphone.
It's great. It is a jewel. And as I interact with people from other districts, not only up and down the Northeast, but around the country and around the world, their interest, they want to know about RMB. They want to know how we do it. How do we make it work? And one of the real keys is to have motivated people like Alden and now like Scott, who can really champion this program. So Scott, thank you for not only being here tonight, but thank you for your leadership in Rotary Means Business. It's something that I enjoy immensely as well. Haven't been there in a while, but whenever I'm able to attend, it's always beneficial.
Just remember to bring your t-shirt you still owe me.
I still owe you a t-shirt. And you know, it's funny because I was thinking, you know, I used to go through business cards, you know, like I would run out of business cards in a year. And now I've had a stack of my business cards sitting there for 18 months and, you know, haven't handed out a single business card. So we need an RMB so I can get rid of all those business cards I've got sitting there. Well, thank you all so much for joining. We're coming to the end of our time. Are there any questions that you wanted to ask any of the 3, Peg, Hector, or Scott, before we wrap it up tonight? All right, thank you to Peg, Hector, and Scott for letting us know a little bit more about the committees that you serve and that you chair. For the January date, there's not actually a district development session in January, but Juliet, there's another program on January 10th. Would you like to share about that?
Yes, so January session will feature Dr. Amy Spots, who is on our district grant committee. And so she will help our clubs understand more about some changes that have occurred with acquiring funds through our district grant process. So, feel free to invite your members and your presidents. And, we had a great response to district grants this past Rotary year, and we hope to keep the momentum going, but there's a few updates that people need to know about. So that will be the focus in January.
Thank
I have
you,
a
and-
question, Juliet. Does Greg and you have a presidents and ADG meeting tomorrow night, or did I put the wrong date in my calendar?
We do not have any meetings this month here for December.
Okay, all righty.
Happy
And
holidays.
Juliet, you'll be able
Yeah.
to put this onto the district website?
Excuse me?
You'll be able to put this recording onto the
Yes.
district website?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. And the district relaunched its YouTube site. So I'll put the Zoom link on right away. I'll have Melissa put the Zoom link on the website right away, but then I can download the video and put it on our district YouTube site.
All right, sounds great. All right, thanks for attending, everyone. And again, thank you to our panelists. Looking forward to seeing you back on Zoom soon for our next meeting. All right, take care.
Right. Thanks,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas, everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye.